If you would please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, our first workshop meeting of the new year. We'll go right into the workshop for the public hearing on the amendment to zoning law to remove condominiums as a use. Elise, your thoughts on that?
I'm sorry.
Can you do me a favor and if you could sit on the sideline so that they can at least hear you when you speak here, because they won't be able to hear a thing if you're projecting this way.
All right.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. That was something that we are going to look into. I had 2 more people ask me if we could do something about the audio, because some people don't speak up like other people do, and they're really concerned about it. They really want to hear you. So I am going to look into seeing what we can do with this camera. I'm not sure. Not much, but we're going to check it out.
All right.
Elise.
You asked me about, I'm sorry,
the public hearing as far as where we're at.
Well, it's still open. I did give you new copies of the revised. And all I really did was accept the changes, not all of them, from the last revision. The one I didn't accept, because I felt that the board was not clearly in favor of changing the parking requirements for apartments to require 1 per bedroom, which was inconsistent with the rest of the code. So I thought that might be more appropriate to do when you're really looking at the entire zoning law, rather than just piecemeal this. The other thing I did was I added back in the planned residential development group because it's actually in your comprehensive plan. So I didn't want to eliminate it, even though it's fraught with inconsistencies. So what I did was I provided revisions to that section of the zoning law, which simply clarifies, 1, the townhouse development is not allowed in that particular planned residential unit special permit, because that was a huge question. It's not clear in the law. And the other thing I did was I made I did 2 other things. The other thing I did was I made the maximum number of units per acre 8, which is consistent with the multi-family development, instead of 18 or 17.35, I think it was. I made that across the board. And then the third thing I did was there was a provision, and this is something that this board might want to weigh in on. In the old PRD zoning law, multifamilies are allowed and buildings can be 70 feet high. Everywhere else in the village, the maximum height is 35. So I put 35. And that means that if you want to put an apartment building as a PRD, it's allowed, but if you want to make it higher than that, you have to go to the ZBA for height variance.
Okay.
And those were the changes that I made.
Well, I didn't realize there was 70 foot was in there under this, so I thought it was all just 35 consistently throughout.
No, the Q4 or 5 actually made it 70 feet high. So you could put an apartment building in the middle of a residential zone, 70 feet high, which just seemed to be very inconsistent with what the village is now. So what you can do is, my suggestion, because we made these changes, is to have it just re-noticed for the next meeting and then take action.
Okay.
So, Jim?
I polled my board and I asked them to also give some comments on this that I've just received tonight, just so you guys know. But for the 1 bedroom, we suggested in the past 900 instead of 700 square feet. The 2 bedroom, instead of 900, it should be 1,000. And the 3 bedroom more should be, instead of 1,050 to 100.
The three bedrooms should be what?
The 3-bedroom or more should be 1,200.
What is it
Square.
now
1050.
for 3-bedroom?
1050.
Is it?
I thought I had actually accepted those changes, but I must have accidentally.
But I'm looking here and it's saying 7,
No,
9,
you're
and
right.
1050.
You're right.
Okay, so we're good on that. What else?
So 900,000, 1,200.
Yeah. What else you got, Jim?
Uh,
You haven't had a chance.
I haven't had a chance to go through, I had written it up previously, but I was running late from work.
That's fine.
I'll go through my papers. I had some red lines on some stuff, for sure, but those definitely I remember for sure.
All right, see if, I don't think there's gonna be a major issue. See if you can get with Elise, any issues you have, get to Elise as soon as possible.
Okay.
So that it could be a quick back and forth, and I can get to the board prior to. If there's any questions, we can get back to Elise. Then we put it on the next agenda for a vote. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, Jim, thank you
Yes.
so much, excellent. All right, on the consolidation of the planning boards, have you heard back from the town's attorney at all?
No.
Okay.
Have you heard anything?
No, if you could touch base with
Justin?
Justin this week, so that, if you can touch base with them early this week, so that they can at least bring it up at their meeting next week and have discussion. And then that information can get back to us for the next meeting. And at least, I don't see anything happening because it's not really rolling yet, but at least we can get the ball rolling,
Okay. I'll do that.
okay? Okay. Recognition of the new fire department officers, wanna hold off on that till following
No,
meeting?
We'll do it the next,
Okay.
because 2 out of the 3 aren't working tonight.
No problem. Art walk?
Art walk,
That was the alert that just went out for the water.
I've been in touch with Nicole Shea, who is now working for Columbia University. And as I mentioned, I think at the last meeting, she's trying to develop a creative campuses kind of approach with a theme for a new art walk that would be sustainability and resiliency. The question is, are we going to make a commitment in writing to do this again? Because, Creative Concepts, who brought in cranes
Right.
and really did a lot for nothing. This year, I think they're going to want to be paid, which I don't blame them. So it's gotta be a more formal approach. They would like a point person from the village, and I'd be happy to volunteer for that. Other questions that they raised was, we're going to move ahead with fundraising, go for some of the art grants and try to get other funding streams. But who is going to maintain the checkbook? Will it go through the village?
No, it will go through the LDC.
Well, that's an interesting, and they're not for profit, so.
Right. The goal of the LDC or the chamber. And the chamber does more events and things like that, where the LDC, once it's running properly, as far as funding, would actually be able to assist in the funding and assist with matching grants and things like that. So I'm thinking the purpose of the LDC, because the purpose of the art walk, one, obviously, is to bring beauty and art to the community, but the other part is to bring people into the community, economic realization. It's one of the main purpose of the LDC, so.
I think the LDC would probably be a better avenue
Yes.
than the chamber, because the chamber, it's a business
Right.
organization and it's
And
limit.
I think the ability to hire people also, and it more cost effective
Yeah,
for something like this, would be better for us to go to the LDC because there's pricing as far as tasks with somebody who's coming in. Otherwise, it doesn't have to be a prevailing rate function.
Right.
If it's going to the LDC to do this, otherwise we'd have to put it out on bid, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we're now running, now that the LDC's up and running, and now that the chamber is being rejuvenated, we're moving anything that's not, that our treasurer's not comfortable with and we're not comfortable with, i.e. 4th of July, any other things. If we can't get the town to take the 4th of July, we're gonna look for the chamber to take the 4th of July. Because that is a chamber type event. The chamber does do events, and they do, besides grand openings, which we're gonna start working with our chamber to help bolster their activity. That's really where it needs to be. So, should we be doing all these activities? No, but if we don't have an avenue to do it, we need to be. Now we have an avenue to do it. Our goal now is to just, you go there, you go there, you go there, and we just deal with village business here.
Can I just make a comment, though, that money that comes into the village can't go to the LDC, the money has to go to the LDC
Correct.
for this purpose.
So contributions have to be made to the LDC, not the village.
Specifically for the art walk.
Exactly.
And that keeps
but they
everything.
are a not-for-profit organization, so it won't run into any
Correct.
problems, okay.
Do you see any issues there?
I
Louise?
don't think so. So when the question though is, the contributions would be to a not-for-profit for the purpose of a not-for-profit function. Now, the LDC will need an accountant and an attorney.
Right,
I don't see any problem, but you want to make sure of that with.
right. That everything's set up.
Sign off from the
okay.
LDC
Right.
attorney, yeah. And you'll not want to commingle the funds for these
Right.
different projects.
Needs to have their own accounts,
The whole
everything.
thing, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
The art walk will have its own account, have its own head, have its own committee. The only purpose and reason for the LDC is to give it structure and to give it a home. Basically, it's gonna be run similar as it was this. The LDC is not gonna run the art walk. The LDC is gonna house the art walk. You're already on the LDC, you're gonna be in charge of the art walk. So you will be the representative from the LDC that's dealing with the art walk. And then what we'll do is, people that are in the community that would like to help participate with the art walk, which is a great event, a lot of things coming in. They would be on a committee, boom. So it's not like the board is gonna say, now the board will accept the art walk, they have to, for us to set up the account and everything like that. But that's not one of the, obviously, primary things that we're gonna put to the LDC, is the art walk. And that's our goal, is to be able to have 15 different things going on under the LDC with different people running.
Well, I think in terms of getting creative concepts on board again and feeling more comfortable, we need to send an official letter from the village
I agree.
saying this is our proposal, and I don't know, does the LDC have letterhead that they can do a letter
I
saying?
appreciate you volunteering to make the LDC.
Interesting you should bring that up, because some of the costs involved would be printing
Right.
for, and signage and presumably a website. Also, keep in mind that with the dedication of the new permanent statue, we would like to combine that all into a grand opening, and I know Greg Wyatt, the artist, has really big plans for that event.
Good.
So, we've got
The village, no matter what, and the decisions gotta be made here, just because we're moving the account and the event to the LDC, that doesn't exclude the village. We still have to buy into the art walk because it's coming into our village. We have to say, yes, we're going to accept the fact you're bringing this art in. Okay, the LDC will be responsible for the goings-on. But that's just like the biking event that wants to go on, or anything else. We still have to accept the fact that it's going to happen here, as a board.
So it will need a permit from the village.
Correct.
That's right. And I would just offer again, I know that you had accepted Ken Ken Bonds from Squire Bob's offer to come in for a free consultation on LDC at the next meeting, but he couldn't make the 21st of last month. So if you just let me know.
Second Monday, 7 o'clock here.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Is it
Second Monday?
second?
Third Monday.
Third Monday.
Second Monday, 7 o'clock here. She's talking about the LDC.
And the LDC.
Oh,
I thought it was a.
Nope, next board meeting's
discuss-
third Monday.
Right.
No, he wants to make, he wants to come to the, you want him coming to the LDC meeting, not the board meeting.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
So
sorry.
he would, you know, just.
Right, to give us tips on moving forward and how an LDC works and
Right.
helping us through some of the various possible hurdles, which is perfect, and I appreciate that.
Who would insure that event?
Yep.
Sorry?
What about insurance for an event like that if the LDC is,
Then the LDC would provide.
have to
you
provide the village with insurance?
Which isn't,
Because you'd be issuing a permit to the LDC, I assume.
right,
So then the LDC would have to
Sure.
provide insurance.
So the village couldn't insure it.
we can,
Oh.
but we're not going to. The village is, no matter what, the village is always gonna be responsible, just like the town's always gonna be responsible, like the state. If somebody sues, everyone's getting sued. But our policy for the last several years has always been, we need the insurance from the individual having the event. Now, it's not gonna be, it's not a massive undertaking for them to get the insurance for this event. They're probably, the LDC will probably get more of a full year policy for several, 5 or 6, 7 different things, and then they would do what most people do when they have multiple events, and that's just get a rider for a specific thing. It's here for this time, it's in this place, this is the rider.
Was that artwork insured the last time it was here? Yeah, the artist.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Well, they'll have their own insurance as well.
But I mean, did anybody provide us with insurance or they insured their own work?
Did Eisenhower?
No,
No?
the individual artists insure their own work, but we did not get copies of it.
Okay.
But the bottom line now is that it will be insured by the LDC
Okay.
coming up.
Not the artwork, but the liability.
The event.
Oh, and I did talk to Gary Boyce just to make sure that he didn't have any issues with our highway crew assisting again the way we did last year.
Right. I do want to take a quick look with you at the site again, just to make sure if there is any changes that need to be made as far as traffic. Just one thing that we need to take a look at. It's not a big deal. We'll take care of it. We'll take a look at it later. Okay?
Oh, you're talking about the permanent installation?
Yes, permanent
Okay.
installation. All right. Planning board consolidation, we already dealt with that. Appointment of Matt Johnson. Matt Johnson was supposed to be appointed last year. If you don't appoint him, they just flip over. But I think we need to officially appoint him. I'm gonna step in a new business real quick just to do that, because it's here on the agenda. So at this time, I'd like to I need a motion to appoint Matt Johnson to the planning board. Do I have a motion? I have a
So moved.
motion, Charlie, I have a second, Anthony. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And his term is how long? 4 years?
Yes.
And just so, in case there's any questions, Elise, when you talk to Justin, right now, we're in a discussion of how everything's gonna be done. But the thought was 7-person board. Right now, there's only 8 members on the total between 2 boards. They have 4, we have 4. 7-person board, 1 alternate. The alternate will be the last person between both boards that was on. So, and then the goal is to get down to 5, which is what you want. If they have any other ways they want to do it, when I talked to two of the town board members about it, they thought it was a decent idea. That's how they did the zoning board. Within several years, they brought it down to 5. This way, the key is to keep. I don't know all the members of the town, but I know the members of the village. To keep them, we have a phenomenal planning board, and I want to make sure they're as active as possible moving forward.
So the discussion with Justin is to find out where the town board is in the process, and for
Right.
them to discuss it at their next meeting and get back to you.
I don't even need to get back to me. If they had come up with basically at the last time we had talked, we were looking for Justin to write up the proposal.
All right,
If he has any questions, he can get back to us and then bring the proposal to this board so we can look at it. I'd like both planning boards to look at it and make sure they're okay with it. Again, I'm the guy who's always pushing, but I think that unless there's some real serious speed bumps, that we could have it at our next meeting to at least look at. Not necessarily have to vote on it next meeting, but have a document in front of us to at least look at it. And then either tweak it or go from there, okay? South Post, I asked for the next couple things to be put on the agenda. I got a call from West Point Tours. They're very concerned about the construction on South Post. They were given some notice today about how the plan is gonna lay out. Essentially, almost all the parking spots in South Post will be taken over by trailers or construction equipment. They're gonna move the actual buses down to where they have all the RVs stored right now.
Oh, great.
So now they're gonna be further away from West Point, kind of detached. They're not that excited about it. But why are we concerned? Where's everyone gonna park? They're gonna park in our lot 2, in all our parking spots, and they're not gonna be paying, coming out every hour to pay the meter. So we've gotta get to West Point and figure out some kind of way to make sure that I'm not suspending giving any tickets out, because that's a year. About approximately a year they're gonna be working on South Post. So we have to come up with a plan, because they're not gonna be parking, and they're not gonna be busing them up from somewhere else and busing them back.
They're gonna consume the whole parking lot with
What-
construction jobs?
Well, I'm not talking, we're talking employees, but then you're also talking visitors
Right.
to South Post. There's gonna be.
And contractors.
And contractors, there's gonna be and we're not even talking about that, the spots that might be left. And again, this is secondhand. I made a call to Landy, I haven't been able to get back to him yet, but I wanna bring the board to speed where we are. And so if there's thoughts out there how to fix or what we need to do. But right now, contractor spots even worse. Unless they do find somewhere else and they all come in on a truck, they'll take up any remainder spots that are left in South Post, if there are.
Why don't we suggest to the garrison commander that they do something along the same lines as USAA did, where they rent the ability to,
Temporary office.
yeah, in our parking lot, so
Well-
we get revenue from it.
Could rent them a parking lot.
Yeah,
You know, it still doesn't solve our problem with
Excuse
park,
me.
but if they had the ability and power down there, they used to put construction trailers in the south end, down by your house,
I know.
that was full of construction trailers at one
And
point
it
in time.
always is.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And they put in these really ugly lights.
Yeah,
The pretty lights along the highway that are antique looking,
right.
they're all out. The only lights are these glaring
Security
bright
lights.
yellow things.
But I guess my point is, I noticed temporary poles down there for power, for construction, you know, for, I don't think there's, unless they run something specifically to that parking lot to power up all these construction trails, if that's what they're talking about. I don't know how many they got coming in, I don't know the magnitude of the project, but good point though.
Well, it's that, and then also, depending on what you're gonna rent them, you have to think of Sacred Heart and Church on Sundays.
And function
You gotta think about
Saturday,
fall foliage,
Sundays, the farmer's market. and everything
farmer's
else.
market, snow removal, the whole nine.
Is the building department involved in the permitting of that?
No.
No,
They're on there.
they should be.
They published
But
an
they're not.
EAF, which I've asked for response from the comments, silence, and yet I've been told they're gonna start construction this spring.
So that's, I'm gonna get more aggressive with Landy to get as much information to us as possible. But I wanted, today was not we're dealing with a problem, informing you, letting you know that it's out there and we need to deal with it. So if people have ideas for solution. But
Right.
that was the first thing that came to mind was, but the other problem, not just with that, with parking, with just West Point Tours, which is why I got a phone call, is they're asking for more room on Main Street for their buses that are going into West Point for tours, because they're gonna have a hard time having the buses down there at that location. But right now, they're across the street and they're actually located in the South Post.
Right.
So the people come in, they do their thing to get on the bus. Now, they're gonna be down there. I don't know if there's gonna be a trailer down there or up here, but he made it sound like they're gonna have to be walking from there to up here to get on the bus, or from here to down there. So they're very concerned as well as for their business. So he was looking for some kind of parking arrangement around where their office is located,
Okay.
next to the church. So it's a bigger issue. And one of the things we had mentioned was, you know, one of the problems is half these people never even cross the street to utilize the village. So, you know, if they're gonna be parking in those spaces, then maybe some kind of a validation system of, you know, you might be able to park if you're utilizing our services, you know, that, I don't know. These are
Yeah.
things that we have to figure out how to help the business section. If this is gonna happen, at least for the year, to help the business section, if they're gonna be taking up spots.
When are they gonna break ground on this?
I wasn't given a set date, I was told spring.
I've heard as early as March.
Okay, so it'll be set
Are
up
they-
soon.
Is
Yeah.
West Point still having the quarterly meetings?
The CDC?
Yeah.
Yes.
At the last meeting, nothing was
No.
put in that? Because that really, if the visitor center's gonna stay open, then they kinda have an obligation to find alternative parking, and if that means that they rent the village parking lot from the village, that might be the best way to handle it.
But going into, we got functions there all summer long, you know, it's something that probably, do we wanna do that?
Right, that's what we have to
You
figure
know,
out.
I don't know if that's in our best interest to rent a spot that we need, for.
And if we don't, how do you keep them out?
Yeah, you'll have chaos too.
That's the thing.
Well, the thing is, if, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we've got that biking event scheduled.
Well, that's nothing compared to, you know, farmer's market and these
Yeah.
things that are happening on a regular basis and are part of the community.
Is the church planning on having that, a one faith type thing?
No, they haven't had that for several years.
Didn't they have carnival there?
Years ago.
Yeah.
When they stopped and the fire department picked it up, they were having it.
I suggest at the next meeting, you know, that we attend over at West Point Visitor Center, what's the owner's name of the tours?
Crispin?
Jay,
I don't know personally, Jay. He and someone from West Point take it over there and meet it. We got enough on our plate.
Right.
Fill that meeting, put it on the agenda and say, how do we resolve this issue? All the players ought to be there.
Jay should be involved, because he knows
Right.
like,
This is not a village
even how many
issue
buses
per
he's
se.
talking about, you know?
Right, this is not a village issue per se. It affects the village, but they ought to be part of it. And the garrison commander ought to be part of it.
right. I told Jay that he needs to get involved with, not just just for this issue, but I told him that him and his representatives that were calling, you need to be at the Chamber of Commerce meetings.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because these are things the chamber, this is also something the chamber should be involved in, because again, it affects business. And the more people that weigh in, the village board, the chamber, the LDC, when we have all the groups weighing in, particularly in one direction, it adds more weight to the issue and helps to hopefully solve it quicker, rather than just one person coming over, two people coming over.
That's my point. Let them throw it out. Good point.
And there might be some kind of an opportunity, given the construction, to get more traffic down on our main street.
Exactly. And that's, these issues, anytime these kind of things are brought up, what we have to do is just not bring it up and let it go. These things have to be brought now to the chamber, which is why we really should have a chamber representative coming. That needs to happen, that we have a chamber representative here that's gonna be bringing back information saying, this is what the village board is supporting the chamber to do. You know, we're not telling them to do anything, they're their own group. But what we're looking for is, these are 3 issues that came up, we feel are chamber issues, we hope you guys can deal with it, we support you 100%.
Who brought that to your attention, Jay or Bob?
One of the people that work with Jay.
Okay, I gotta see him next week anyway, midweek I'll see Bob or Jay. This will be at the West Point Tours, and I'll chime in and tell him what you said about the chamber.
Okay. We could use a donation too. I know it's got some cash. Just throw it out. All right, ALO property. Anything else on South Post? ALO property. Oh, last thing on South Post. I know it's aggressive, but it's not gonna happen tomorrow. But again, thinking outside the box, once we get the final papers on what's actually happening in South Post, we have to consider as a village, do they need South Post anymore? If they're gonna take down a building and not put more buildings up, and they're moving the Spellman, the use of the Spellman Hall onto West Point, really the only thing that's happening right now is the visitor center, the museum, and the hotel. The hotel has nothing to do with West Point. They're renting it out, they're making money, that's a commercial hotel. So really, it's just two buildings. Does that need to be West Point? Can the village, should we as a village relook at it and go to our representatives in DC and say, why is that off our tax rolls? Because if that was, now those two buildings and that property, specific property go off. But the rest of it, the hotel and the other property where another structure might be brought up, if they tear that down and don't build it back up, can be part of the village. So my point is,
They're talking about tearing down Spellman?
yes. My point is that we should, and this is one of the things that LDC is looking at as well, but I want the board to know, because we have to move action on this as well. Just because they picked it up 20, 30 years ago doesn't mean that we can't get it back. You know, we are getting a 12 by 12 piece back. So, you know, it's a start. But timing is everything. It's timing. And timing is the ALO property. The reason I put it on the agenda tonight, again, is more informational purposes. The committee, for the LDC committee for the ALO property is meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock to start putting together proposals as to what's possible as far as, you know, worst case scenario. And again, I'm new at the game, so, you know, we're trying to put it out to the people that know. Worst case scenario, the LDC does the whatever bonding necessary, as well as raising grant money, which one of our committee members is working on right now, to get the property for the LDC, and then put it out there as soon as we can. Best case scenario, we get a developer that's gonna do what we want to happen on that property. More so the top end than the bottom end. The bottom end isn't as imperative as the top end. But the key is that we don't lose it. I did get a call from the school. They want to meet on Thursday to talk about the ALO property, and they want the town, the school, and us to sit down on Thursday, talk about the ALO property and the fact that they don't want to lose it. And I'm like, that's awesome. What can you do? So I don't know what the school and town can do to help, but we will be meeting at 10:30 on Thursday to discuss the ALO property. I'm not sure. They're just concerned that we're going to lose it, and I said, well, let's look at 4 other pieces real quick. We'll meet on all of them. Let's bring a couple more back. So that was that. Just a quick note for the general consolidation. I did speak to Tim this morning. Tim is the person who won the bid for putting together the plan and implementation for consolidation. We talked for about 15-20 minutes about the goal of the board and to start with the police. And I want to make sure that we're all clear and we're on the same page. I did express to him that we are not looking to consolidate the police departments. We are looking to dissolve the village police. Because that's the difference, his timeline can move much quicker, knowing that that is still our wish. And I want to make sure that it's all of our wishes, that once we come up with we're not looking for a consolidation plan for the police. We're looking for an understanding from the town of what the new police, because basically that's where it comes down to. It's going to be an agreement between the village and the town that the town is going to, this is how they're going to set it up. And then we're going to dissolve.
within the planning process, isn't it incumbent upon all municipalities to look at multiple options, not just pre-approve one option over others?
What are the others?
Well, consider consolidation, consider status quo, consider dissolving, and admittedly, if the town will only take on policing for the village if we dissolve, that would be, you know, a real motivation to dissolve, and that would elevate that option over others. But at least in my experience, when you do a plan like this, you do consider options, and things fall off the table because one municipality won't accept one version of the plan over another, but didn't.
There is no finite, this is what we're doing. Adding the fact that we are in agreement that we're willing to,
Oh,
Right.
willing is one thing, but
right,
we can't
that,
just
no.
go in with blinkers.
No, we don't have any,
Yeah.
we don't know the structure.
we don't, that's not our job.
Yeah.
Our job was to hire him to do the whole study. And he mentioned that, he mentioned looking at several different things, talking to several different groups. He will be meeting with the consolidation committee very shortly. And then right after that, we'll be setting up a town-wide meeting for informational purposes and to get feedback from the community. Right now, he's planning on four town-wide meetings throughout this year. If we need to do more or we want to do more, we can. But for his purposes, he's planning on 4, which makes sense. You don't want to have one every week. You're not going to, build up the information, get it out to the community. There's no reason we can't get feedback from the community during that time and set up either a Facebook or a website where the feedback can come in, gather it all, let him deal with it, and then have another meeting. You don't want to inundate, and if we need to, we can. But no, what I was saying, and I think that we're all in agreement, he was happy to know that we were willing to dissolve, that wasn't off the table. And I said yes, and from my experience, what I've seen, that seems to be our best option. I'm not the person doing the study, that's why we hired Tim, so, but I wanted to make sure he knew that, and that made a big difference as far as his timeline. He said if you're looking to get the police done in a sooner fashion, it's very good to know that you're willing to, if all the pieces fall the way they should, because as you know, consolidation there's a lot more hurdles than dissolution. So if we come to the right agreement, and we're where we need to be, for us to dissolve would be a quicker solution.
Do the residents have a vote on the dissolving?
It's a permissive referendum.
Yes.
If, and we've planned, we actually mentioned that as well. If they get the signatures to put it on a ballot, I said what I would not like to see is us to have to spend extra money. So really, we want to try and target it for March or November. March, a little too soon. So the target would be November, so that if people did want to put it to a vote, and I said, I wouldn't be upset at all, as long as we weren't putting any extra money into it. And he's checking to see if we can have a dissolution vote among the villagers at a town election. He's making sure to see if that's okay to do.
Who's providing legal advice? Because what I hear is, I think what you're talking about is two different things. In other words, you're looking at the dissolution of the village, to consolidate with the total dissolution of the village.
Dissolution of the police department.
You're right, it's two
Separate
different things.
from
Yeah.
dissolution of the village.
Correct.
So, so my question would be, is he getting legal advice and are you getting legal advice on how we dissolve the village police force? Because that's regulated.
The
I mean, if he's not an attorney, then he's gotta hire an attorney.
Yep.
He's not an attorney, but he has done 2 already.
Well, that's
Well,
fine,
let's-
but that doesn't mean that he's gonna, that you
Good
can
question.
rely on
Well, he's
his
gonna have a
legal
meeting,
advice.
so that's probably a fair question
Yeah.
to discuss.
Because whatever
Absolutely.
you decide as a village board, as your village attorney, I feel that I'm responsible to make sure that you follow the law, whatever that law is. And I
feel
would
that
not
that's a good
rely on him
Right.
to advise you.
Although the Department of State, through the legal department at DOS, has compiled a lot of material to facilitate this at the local level.
That's great.
And I would suggest that's nice, but it's not nice enough for me. When you have that information, I still want someone to check over that we're gonna be okay. Because we're paying this gentleman to do this study, it behooves him to know the legality of it. He's gonna get everything set up, and then we need to have someone to look over that.
Review.
Absolutely. But I'm not willing to get caught up in a bureaucratic shuffle and all of a sudden someone say, oh, by the way, you didn't dot all your i's and cross your t's. That's not worth it.
Is somebody in this capacity, don't you think they would have counsel looking over these matters? I mean,
Well, you would assume that, well,
Let's
look,
find out, because
Yeah, okay.
as Charlie said, this is what they do.
Right.
yeah.
It's not like, why don't I consolidate a
Good question,
town?
though. Yeah.
They do
I
it.
understand that, but I still want to be safe.
So what we need to find out is what are his checks and balances
Right.
in the legal department?
Right, okay.
yeah.
And I made a note of that.
Thanks
Just
for bringing that
up
up.
because I wanna
No.
make sure
Yeah.
that the village is.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Good point.
But first, it's a disillusion of the two schools, and then you'll address the village.
We've talked about functional consolidation of major departments like the police department and DPW, working toward total
Okay,
consolidation.
I got it.
Hmm.
That's what I'm telling you.
I did, let me bring this up so it's not forgotten. Murns Avenue project. I talked to Al, this afternoon. He needs the plans for the Murns Avenue project. So Gina, if we can get Gary, either Gary or Falchetti, who has already been paid to do so, needs to get us all the information on him. I know, I know. You don't have to, I wish you guys could see her face right now. If we can give them a call and let them know we need to get all the information on the Murns Avenue project, that can begin in the spring, this spring, if we have the information. If not, it can still begin, but he's gonna have to rewrite everything up again,
Right.
which is going to cost more money. We don't wanna
have
do that.
I think. I would think.
We should have it. We should have the fact that O'Neill owns that pipe. We should have a lot of things, and we don't. But we're getting there.
Are we putting a date down when we want this, so it's not, well, yeah, I'll get it back to you?
I want it by the end of the week. That's what I told Fusco. I want it by the end. I want to know by Friday that we either have the paperwork or we don't have the paperwork. So that by Friday, he can start working on, well, it's got to be done. There's $300,000 sitting out there. And Murn still has to be fixed. So if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. But those are the two avenues I know between Gary and Falchetti. If there's some other avenue of finding this information, our deadline for that is this Friday.
And let's assume we're gonna find it. Now let's assume that they don't have it.
Then he's gonna have to start rewriting, and then I will get a new timeline. It's still going, the goal is still this year.
You guys paid for that engineering work?
Correct, from
So
Falchetti.
you should have access
Correct.
to it,
Yeah.
and if, there might be a nominal charge if they have to
Make copies.
make copies, but if
Yeah, I
they
don't
did the
think that's a
work,
problem.
they should provide the documents.
Absolutely. You have the old litigation.
Okay,
Gotcha, Robbie.
new business. We need to approve the minutes as written in regular board meeting December 21st, 2015.
Motion.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? I need a resolution request to reform New York State public education funding. You have everyone got that in their packet? Any questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion? do the whole resolution? You do? All right. All right.
I'll move.
Ah, so me too, I'm bored of that, I'm gonna go that way. All right. Whereas New York State is one of only 12 states that continue to fund public schools through property taxes, whereas the greatest financial hurdle facing the homeowners in the state is the onerous burden of school taxes, whereas the burden has forced innumerable New Yorkers, including many of those transitioning to retirement on a fixed income, to sell their properties and move from the state. Whereas most states fund public schools through sales taxes and state income taxes, both corporate and personal, and other possible avenues and funding including mortgage tax and excess profits taxes, all of which should be considered as more equitable and less burdensome alternatives to the school property tax method in New York. And whereas even the city of New York is no longer funds its public schools through property tax, and recognizing that this is a matter of equity as well as hardship, and whereas in order to avoid a subsidy by the residents of one region from another, the residents of New York State should either be afforded a credit or excluded from any funding alternative so that their fair legislation can be enacted without opposition on that score, and whereas responsibility for the education of our youth should be more fairly and equitably distributed and not placed solely on the backs of our property owners, and whereas 2% tax cap law enacted by New York State is proof that the governor, state, and assembly are aware of this crisis, but it is only a band-aid approach to a worsening problem. And whereas a more permanent solution must be found for the sake of the survival of our state. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Highland Falls, in its capacity as the governing body of the village, hereby requests that Governor Andrew Cuomo, members of the New York State Senate, and members of the New York State Assembly urgently address this crisis and enact reforms to school district funding in New York State that implement an equitable alternative funding system to the property tax, and be it further resolved that we respectfully request that our New York State representative, the Honorable William Larkin, Senator for the 39th Senate District, and the Honorable James Skoufis, Assemblyman for the 99th Assembly District, advocate for the reforms hereby put forth, and we thank them for their diligence in this matter. And be it further resolved that the Village Board hereby authorizes the Mayor to execute a letter substantially in the form annexed hereto on behalf of the Village Board addressed to the Honorable Andrew Cuomo, Governor, requesting said reforms, and to deliver such letter and certified copies of this resolution to the Governor, Senator Larkin, and Assemblyman Skoufis, and be it further resolved that the foregoing resolution shall take effect immediately.
Can we scratch out 2% since the tax cap is
Yeah.
now under 1?
I don't know, I think we just want to make that a regular thing so we can just keep marking it down, because it'll be under 0.5 soon. Actually, it's going to go in the negative, we're going to owe money, which is great. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Murphy?
Aye.
Trustee Alward?
Aye.
Trustee Mallon?
Aye.
Trustee Farina?
Aye.
Mayor Flynn?
Aye.
Did you guys write this, or did it come from some,
I wrote it last
Yourselves?
night, just kind of penned it out.
I thought it read
Yeah.
like you. Or
No,
was it
It came from, I believe, Newburgh,
Newburgh?
the town supervisor, I believe. We just.
So they sent out to a lot of municipalities to sign off on it?
All.
Okay. Thank you.
I was one of those guys that, criminal records now by the courts. I wonder if they could donate their pension to this that we're getting while they're gonna be in jail.
I thank God that the camera's not picking it up, because you said I was one of those guys that had a criminal record, and they can't hear me right now, and I'm glad that our volume is not really being picked up on the thing. I just put it out there, someone's gonna use that someday.
I'm just suggesting if they're getting their pension, maybe they wanna donate to schools. Okay, let's go.
I need a motion to surplus out the vehicle at the sewer plants for junk, not to sell.
Motion to surplus it, or not surplus it, render it as junk, sell it for whatever parts it still might be able to contribute.
It's gonna go right to a
Junker.
scrapyard.
Yeah.
Now, is there a liability to the village if we sold this and somebody?
That's why we're doing what we're doing. There is a
I see
liability.
that, I see that written
Yeah.
there, but I don't know how that.
Gary was very specific about the fact
You
that,
just get the scrap value.
yeah.
No, okay, I thought maybe it'd be worth more surplus, but. the
There's
liability
always,
aspect of-
there's always a
That's
chance
that
that it
cheap.
won't be,
Is that
Yeah.
that cheap?
yeah.
Yeah,
But I guess Gary's seen this before in
Okay,
other areas,
alright.
that, you know, you don't wanna take a chance of surplusing out someone, they're driving it, it gets to an accident, and everyone's like, well, that was a horrible vehicle to begin with, you should never have been in it.
okay.
Someone's gonna, you know, scrapyard may sue us for bad metal, but that's the worst thing that could happen, hopefully. Alright,
Need a second.
I need a second. Anthony, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve the pest training for the calendar year 2016.
Motion.
Anthony, do I have a second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion for the termination of part-time dispatcher Alexis Pearson.
I want to table it.
I agree.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I just don't know enough about it, it's just that
It's a termination, I just don't wanna
Yeah.
fire someone over not knowing all the information.
I'll talk to the chief, I'll give him a call, I just wanna talk to him about it briefly.
Yes.
The liaison didn't get briefed on that termination?
Negative.
No.
Well, that's problem number one.
Well, yeah, so I just want,
Table.
I'm not saying I,
Second.
you know, okay.
Good.
We do have a report here from the fire department, very extensive, we'll be there the next meeting. I need a motion to approve the meeting changes from Monday, January 18th to Tuesday, January 19th, due to Martin Luther King holiday, and Monday, February 15th to Tuesday, February 16th, due to the President's Day holiday.
Motion.
Second.
Anthony Bryan, do I have all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to approve the bills and claims?
Motion, so moved.
Second? Brian, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And any other board comments? No? As part of the standard workshop, for the workshops, public comment isn't really done. So we're gonna move on. If there's anything out of control that needs to be said, you're more than welcome to bring it up. But moving forward, since this is the first meeting, we're really saying it, during our workshop meetings, there won't be public comment, only public comment at the general meetings. Alrighty?
So how is the workshop so unique that you can't have public comment?
That's just the way they're set up.
Really?
That's why I just
Why is
said,
it called a workshop?
it's called a workshop so that you can
Usually
actually,
you have full participation workshops, I've been to.
The meetings to do, we would try to get more done and stuff to the.
There's no requirement under state law to have public comment anyway. It's just boards use discretion to allow it. But boards could entertain no public comment if they chose to. It's just
It
that
wouldn't last as
typical.
long as boards, it would seem, I would think.
Well, there are actually some boards that don't really do public comment, but most of them do.
and as I said, if there's important things that need to be said, but again, what we're trying to do is focus the majority of the time to get problems taken care of in a quicker fashion. That's why we started the workshop meeting, as every other meeting is a workshop. Alrighty? With that, I would ask for a motion to move into executive session, discuss specific individuals and personnel matters.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Do you need me?
Happy New Year.
Do you need me to stay?
Yes.